Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and this is my review of the third episode of Obiwan Kenobi, and in my opinion it was a slight improvement over the first two episodes, which were kind of slow and boring, and we have the appearance of Darth Vader sooner than I expected. Already they're fighting each other by the end of the third episode, and the fight was kind of disappointing in this episode because Obi-Wan is so untrained and he keeps trying to run away and he's been a coward and all of that. But I'm still giving the show the benefit of the doubt because I'm hoping that it's not their only fight in the series. They will probably meet again and fight again, and then it will be more epic that simply Obi-Wan was out of practice. He knew he cannot win, so he tried to run away, but later on, maybe he will train himself back into shape and then face Vader again in a more epic battle. I'm guessing no one will win in the end because it has to be kind of a stalemate for the scene in A New Hope to make any sense, but I'm still holding out hope that maybe the show will redeem itself and redeem the character of Obi-Wan, which is one of the biggest problems in the show because Obi-Wan seems kind of weak and cowardly and all of that, but maybe they will fix it in the end and then I can be okay with it. And you know, some people compare it with Jake Skywalker in The Last Jedi, and I said in my review of that movie that I'm not necessarily against the idea of a broken character with PTSD who is depressed and all of that, as long as by the end of the story the character comes back to normal, to what he should be, to the hero he should be, then it can be okay. The biggest mistake of The Last Jedi, in my opinion, is that they killed off Luke in the end and then he never became the hero we all wanted to see. If they simply hadn't killed him off in the end of the movie, if instead he simply kind of redeemed himself and came back to what he should be and then become a greater hero, maybe in the next movie, maybe he should have been the one to fight Sidious in the end and win and save the galaxy and all of that, then I could forgive what they did with him early on by making him broken and cowardly and all of that. If he overcame his fears and changed and became a hero again, then I will be fine with that. So that's what I'm hoping will happen with Obi-Wan Kenobi, that maybe they started off this season in that way, but during it he will overcome his fears and he will train himself back and become a hero again. Then I can forgive the beginning. So I'm hoping they will do that. So I'm not willing to judge the whole show just based on the first few episodes, even though it definitely does have some problems. A lot of the show feels kind of like fan fiction, that someone just wanted to play with these characters one more time, but they didn't really have any idea for any clever story, so they just invented a simplistic story as an excuse to simply have these characters. And even the action scenes are not really that impressive. A lot of them are really silly and cheap looking, like in the previous episode when they were running on the rooftops, jumping from building to building. It kind of seemed like a Matrix ripoff, and people were shooting at them with laser bolts, and they were hiding behind some laundry which was hanging to dry, and the laundry somehow protected them from these laser bolts. And so how weak are the weapons in this universe that you can hide behind some wet clothes and that somehow protects you from lasers? And so silly stuff like that makes it feel cheap. And in this episode we have this laser roadblock which Obi-Wan has to turn off to be able to get through it, but it's such a small fence, why can't he simply jump above it or walk around it, because it seems to be open on the sides? And so what was the point of shutting it off? And I did kind of like that scene of him sitting in the truck with all the stormtroopers, because it seemed like a Tarantino style of a scene, with the tension building up gradually as they start to suspect him, but then in the end they just walk out and don't suspect him. I guess he used the Jedi mind trick without using a hand, without showing it, but there's no real other explanation of how come they didn't suspect this guy who's dressed like a Jedi of being a Jedi that they're looking for. And so maybe he did use the Jedi mind trick. You know, the Force is such a convenient excuse for any plot problem in Star Wars. It's kind of funny at this point. But I did kind of like that scene of the tension building up with the stormtroopers all around him, and because he's so out of shape, it makes it work. If he was so overpowered as he was in the prequels, then we would have no sense of danger. I guess it's a problem because it's a prequel anyway, that we don't really think anyone will do something really bad to him or to Leia, so it's already a problem. But so in a way, maybe it's a good thing they kind of downgraded Obi-Wan for a while, making him weaker than usual so that we will feel some sense of danger. And then suddenly he pulls out a blaster and shoots all of them with such precision, which makes it silly, again in the context of his lines in A New Hope, in which he said that a blaster is a very clumsy and random weapon compared to a lightsaber, and yet now we see that he's such an excellent shot with a blaster that it's better than a lightsaber from what we see in the scenes of him shooting. And so if he thinks a lightsaber is superior, why did he hide it in the desert anyway? So a lot of things in the show don't really make much sense. if we really analyze them and think about them. And then Darth Vader shows up and he's killing civilians randomly, I guess to draw Obi-Wan out, and yet Obi-Wan doesn't go out. He lets all those civilians die because he's such a coward that he wants to run away and hide, and he doesn't care about all the people that Vader kills. And so that's kind of annoying because he faces him in the end anyway, so Vader catches him anyway. So wouldn't it have been better and more heroic for him to come out of hiding, to spare those civilians so that Vader wouldn't have to kill them, and then fight him? Then it will be more heroic at least and not so cowardly looking. And then when they're about to fight the first time, Obi-Wan just runs away. That was kind of funny in my opinion. It was kind of unintentional comedy, or maybe it was intentional. Either way, I kind of enjoy it indirectly because of how silly it is. And then they do end up fighting, and Vader ignites something on the ground and drags Obi-Wan through the fire. And then Obi-Wan is suddenly rescued by a droid, and Vader cannot do anything because he suddenly cannot go through the fire. Maybe he has PTSD of his own, maybe he's still scared of fire, even though he lives on a lava planet in the same place that he burned down. So should he still be afraid of fire? So a lot of parts in this show are kind of silly. I guess maybe he wants Obi-Wan to escape because he wants to toy with him some more, he wants to torment him for a while longer, and to play with him some more. So I guess that's the only excuse. So I'm guessing Obi-Wan at some point will regain his mojo and face Vader again, and then it will be a proper fight hopefully, and not as lame as the first one. And if the writers were clever, then instead of creating new plot holes and plot problems, they can actually fix a lot of other problems, such as how come in Return of the Jedi Vader told Luke that Obi-Wan once thought it's possible to bring Vader back from the light side, and yet we never saw that happen. And so maybe in the next encounter Obi-Wan will do something to try to get Vader back to the light side. And so I'm hoping they will do it with proper dialogue and proper attention to continuity, otherwise it will be very annoying. And so I'm still hoping maybe that will happen. And if I was writing the show, I would add a scene in which Obi-Wan gets his hand on some kind of special medicine. Maybe some guy sells him some special drug that he says will be able to alter his face to look totally different, so that the next time he encounters an Imperial probe and it scans his face, it won't recognize him as Obiwan Kenobi. In this way he'll be able to hide better from the Empire. That will fix the continuity issue of how he changed completely to look like a different person 10 years from now, and we don't actually have to see him use it. We can simply see him get it and being told what it does, and then he keeps it, and then we can presume he used it at some later time before A New Hope, and that's why he looks so different in that movie. And they can even add a remark of that guy who sells him the drug. He can tell him, I just sold it to some smuggler guy who was also escaping from the Empire because he used to be a soldier of the Empire and he deserted, and so he also got that drug and used it to good use. So without saying a name, without making it too obvious, they can imply some other characters that we've seen, namely Solo, also how he changed his face in such a short time. And that's something I would have written, and in a way that would be just humoristic and not kind of too obvious, not too contrived and convenient. Just add a little line like that to potentially explain away the continuity issue without actually showing it on screen, without actually making it too silly. And so that's something I would have done. So anyway, I will refrain from making a final judgment of the show just based on the first episodes. I'm hoping it will get better. I'm hoping that by the end it will redeem itself and be worth it. And then we can forgive the first few episodes, which were far from perfect. So that's all I had to say about it for today. Let me know what you think, and we can discuss all of this in the comments below. And I will see you all next time. Bye bye.